And without further ado, let me go ahead and pull up the slides real quick. Just give me a second. And then we can go right ahead and get into the segment, which is talking about the best small forwards in the league. Again, I should remind all of you guys that this is my list, therefore my opinions. Therefore, I could put anyone that I want at number 1, I could put anyone that I want at number 10, and I can leave anyone that I don't want off of this list. So if any of you guys have a problem with the list that I've made, maybe let me know in the comments and I'll see what you guys think and we can talk about it. I think I back my statements up pretty well when I make these kinds of lists, and the small forward position I think is a relatively easy position to look at to look at players and to figure out which player is the best, because it's usually the same two at 1 and 2, and those same two that you see at 1 and 2 come in either LeBron or Kevin Durant. I have LeBron as the best small forward in the entire NBA. I know a lot of people, they're going to go immediately to the comments and be like, oh, but LeBron didn't make it to the second round. The rest of these guys did. Or, oh, LeBron hasn't won since 2017 or something like that. And to that, I just say hater alert, because after watching these Olympics, and after watching what he's been able to do in the NBA, since he won the championship back in 2020, I made a mistake. I said 2017, I meant 2020. He's been, consistent throughout his entire career, and on top of that, he's been very, very consistent towards the latter half of his career, where with the Lakers, he's averaged since winning the championship, he averaged 25 points per game, then he averaged 30, then he averaged 28, and now he's averaging 25.7. On top of that, while shooting better from Stephen Curry from the three-point line. Yes, he shot better than Steph Curry from the free throw line this year. And I mean, if you don't have him as the best small forward in the NBA, then in my opinion, you're just a hater, because it genuinely doesn't make any sense. And this gold medal and these strings of victories that he's been able to give the United States, it only shows just how badly the Lakers have managed LeBron James and the roster. They've done a horrible, horrible job. And the fact that they even missed the playoffs while having LeBron is a sin in of itself. So it isn't the Lakers' fault that LeBron doesn't make it to the postseason. The Lakers are the reason why LeBron doesn't make it to the postseason. He's being held back by this franchise, which is crazy to say, because this franchise is the same franchise that paired up Shaq with Kobe, that was also able to pair up Magic with Kareem, and have this history of building through draft picks and hitting on big name players, and they just haven't done that. Part of the reason could be because LeBron, and for as good as LeBron is, he also, as opposites, attract, most of the time positives end up being repelled. Same thing with magnets. So whenever you bring in LeBron, it's like everybody else on the team either ends up playing worse because of the nerves when playing with LeBron, or they end up not wanting to play for LeBron and would rather go somewhere else. You see and you notice every single offseason, every single team avoids trying to make deals with Los Angeles. Every single team does this. And this ultimately affects their chances of acquiring talent via trades and acquiring them via free agency, which is something that they're so popular in doing. And you can blame it on LeBron, you don't blame it on LeBron, doesn't matter. He's the best small forward, end of story. The only other player that I would even accept being over LeBron would be someone like Kevin Durant. And even then, that's a very, very slim chance. Kevin Durant would have to do something incredible. Like in 2021, when he was or in 2020, 2021 to be a little bit more accurate, where he stepped on the three-point line and forced the overtime of Game 7 when it should have been a game winner. That was when everyone thought Kevin Durant was the best small forward in the league, especially since he returned from his injury, from the playoffs all those years ago when he tore his Achilles. And I mean, you can look at the stats, you can look at, all of the accolades that he has. Him being at number 2 makes sense. And if it wasn't for LeBron being LeBron, then he would probably make number 1 on this list. Now, he didn't make it far in the postseason this year, but he does have championship belts under his he does have championships under his belt, as well as playing really well in the postseason, not just, for Phoenix, but also for Brooklyn, as well as Golden State, as well as OKC. He has the resume, he has everything that you could ask for in a small forward, especially the scoring prowess. That's he's considered as one of the best scorers, one of the best pure scorers in NBA history, and, I wouldn't be opposed if that's your opinion on somebody as talented and as prolific of a scorer as Kevin Durant is. I mean, the lowest points he's averaged for his career was 25.8, or like the lowest points per game average that he's had in his tenure, because he's been on several different teams, was with Golden State, when he averaged 25.8 points per game with Golden State. With Brooklyn, he averaged 29, and with Phoenix, he averaged 27. I have no idea how, when someone returns from an Achilles injury, they somehow become better, but that's just Kevin Durant. He's in the chat. What's good? Nothing much. I'm just, ranking my small forwards. I think Kevin Durant at 2 is a pretty solid pick, because the rest of the players under them, they might have had, the good season last year, but in terms of, the rest of the accolades and the things that I know they can do, I would put Kevin Durant over them. Now, this next player on this list, a lot of people, they might complain that he's not number 1, or they might complain that he is, so low at number 3, because, Celtics fans, they're incredibly spoiled. I'm talking about Jason Tatum, obviously. I think that given this, even without, actually, no, scratch that. With this championship, it sort of boosts him in, the small forward category. I would put players, before he won the championship, I would put players like Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler over him. But since he did win the championship, and recently won the championship, as well as win the gold medal with the United States, I had to put him in the top 3, at least. I was against the fact that he wasn't playing in a couple of the games. While I'm not a big fan of, him and just the, for lack of a better term, aura that he gives off, I wish I could have used a better term, but I really couldn't, because it's the energy that I get from him. I don't know. Something about him just rubs me the wrong way. Maybe it's because he likes Kobe a little bit too much, and too much of Kobe is not necessarily a good thing. And maybe, he thinks he's supposed to be maybe I feel like he thinks he's supposed to be the best player because Kobe was the best player, and, he's just not supposed, he just wants to be exactly like him and things like that. But it's I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of Tatum, but I do think he is the third best small forward on this list. Him in the chat, he's saying otherwise. He doesn't know about that. But then again, when I reveal the rest of the players, you're going to see sort of why he's so high on this list, because there aren't really that many small forwards that are better than Tatum. I mean, he wasn't the best player in the finals, obviously. He wasn't even the best player in the Eastern Conference Finals either. But it's not like his stats and, the numbers that he was averaging are bad and warrant this kind of criticism. If he was playing really bad, how he did in 2022 in the finals, then I totally understand. But for last season, he averaged 26 points per game in the regular season, shot 47% from the field and 37% from 3, and he was doing everything in the postseason as well. He averaged 25 points along with almost 10 rebounds, I should say. And the only thing that was really bad about him was his three-point shooting. But everyone on the Celtics was a rusty three-point shooter, so I don't really hold that against him. And, I mean, he literally just won the championship. Compared to everybody else on this list, you can make the argument that, he's a little bit better than them. But I'll leave that to you guys and your opinions. Now, the next player on this list is Kawhi Leonard. Now, I know Kawhi Leonard in the postseason is a myth. Like, a lot of people consider him unstoppable. And they would be right to consider him unstoppable. He's definitely one of the better postseason performers that we've seen in today's NBA. The one thing and the one reason why I don't put him over Jason Tatum is because he gets hurt. That is the only reason why I put Kawhi Leonard lower than Jason Tatum. It's because almost every single time in the postseason, since he's gone on the Clippers, when you desperately need him, he always doesn't show up. Because either he's injured or because he doesn't play well. In 2020, it was because he didn't play well. But in the rest of the years, he was injured. Not to mention the fact that the Clippers, without him, they were able to make it farther in the postseason than with him. And, that's always sort of rubbed me the wrong way, and I can't really put somebody that isn't available for these games higher than someone who was available for these games and ended up winning these games in the end. Like, those two finals MVPs, they really saved Kawhi, but for the most part of his career, Kawhi Leonard has always been on good teams. He gets most of the credit whenever things go right, and gets barely any criticism when things go wrong. Like, maybe that's because he's quiet, so the media just decides to leave him alone, unlike, certain small forwards in this league, LeBron. But just because, he's an introvert doesn't mean that, he's the most reliable player. And just because he's good in the postseason also doesn't mean he's the most reliable player. Because how can you rely on someone who keeps getting injured so early in the postseason? It's worse than Joel. But again, that's the only reason why I don't have him higher than Jason Tatum. Because, that whole fiasco with LA, trying to make the Clippers a relevant franchise, it was such a disaster. It wasn't even funny. And he was injured again in these most recent postseasons when he lost to Luka, and he was nowhere to be found for the team. And it's like, how am I supposed to put him over somebody that is there for every single postseason? Yes, he might have lost every single one of them up until now, but he's there, and he has way more, time in the postseason, it feels like, than Kawhi Leonard. Hell, like Jason Tatum, he was drafted in around 2018. In the span of his, not counting the 2 years, since the Clippers acquired Kawhi, I think Jason Tatum has been a part of more postseason series than Kawhi Leonard. And that says a lot, given how a lot of people expected Kawhi and the Clippers to go far and above and beyond and finally get over the championship hump and win the championship. So that's sort of the reason why I don't have him higher on this list and why I have Jason Tatum higher than him. Next player is Jimmy Butler. Again, another playoff myth. And again, the big reason why I don't have him higher than Tatum was because he was unavailable in the postseason. And I just think that his whole playoff Jimmy persona is just a little bit over exaggerated. I'm not that big of a fan of Jimmy Butler, and while he's expected to not play for the Miami Heat soon, but really, again, the biggest reason why I have him at number 5 is because almost in every other year with the Miami Heat, he's been able to make it to the finals. He hasn't been able to win, but he's been able to make it. And, he's averaging 20 points per game on 49% shooting as well as 41% shooting from 3. And he played 60 games last season, so he's not really worried about meeting the criteria for winning NBA accolades and things like that. But he's also a pretty solid option once the postseason comes. Now, the big problem with this most recent postseason was that he wasn't there. And that was the big reason why the Boston Celtics were able to beat the Miami Heat. Again, I can't put somebody who wasn't there for the postseason over somebody who went through the entire postseason and won it in the end. Jimmy Butler, he makes it to the finals every other year, but he doesn't end up winning the finals every other year. And his finals performance against the Nuggets was also very, very bad, along with that's really the only finals performance where he was really, really bad in it. And I can't really put him higher than Tatum just off of how it's going, you know? And next is actually not DeMar DeRozan. Him made a prediction. He thought that DeMar was going to be next on this list. It was actually Brandon Ingram. Yeah, Brandon Ingram is the next player on this list. And I mean, I like Brandon Ingram. His career has been a little bit meh, I guess you could say. Like, he hasn't really done everything in the league. He's gone to the playoffs a little bit, but he doesn't have that many accolades. This is sort of where we go down the rabbit hole of mid-tier small forwards. And like, you know, this is sort of like where they're at this point in their career where it's like, okay, I think I figured out my role. Now I have to figure out how to win while playing my role. And it's, you know, it's not that easy. Not everybody does it, like, you know, right off the bat. And but Brandon Ingram is definitely one of them. And, you know, in my opinion, I think Brandon Ingram is, you know, he was underrated before. Now he might be getting a little bit overrated. And if he doesn't win soon, that trade with the Pelicans is really going to haunt him, because that was the reason why he was even on New Orleans in the first place. And again, I'm just like, you know, I'm a little bit cautious when I do these small forwards, but not putting DeMar DeRozan over Brandon Ingram was a little bit risky, because, like, you know, I genuinely figured that, you know, DeMar and, you know, his play with in basketball, it's not really the same as Brandon Ingram and his play in basketball. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this segment up into two different parts, because we are already over the limit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this segment in the next segment, as well as I'm going to go ahead and go into the second segment, which is going to be talking about Joel Embiid receiving the Order of Valor. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue this list, as well as, you know, go into the next segment right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned for that.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the